Another one bites the dust. Doom, doom, doom. Another one bites the dust. Okay, I know I can't sing. Maybe I can mix and maybe I can engineer, but I can't sing worth a darn. Somebody get me some auto-tune, please. Well, another one bites the dust, kids. Another one bites the dust. Well, it probably shouldn't surprise you. Marshall Amplification has been bought out by a private equity firm out of China, of all places. Hongshan something private equity. I don't know. But they're just a group of a bunch of investors who are going to absolutely destroy this brand and everything that it is known for. And that is truly unfortunate for all of us, but it's not surprising at all. So let's talk about where you think it's going to be going forward. I think they're ultimately going to destroy every aspect of this brand. I think the amps that we know today and we've loved today, they are going to not be made anymore. I'll be very surprised. They're going to try it for a little while, but I guarantee you they're going to ultimately destroy that company like every single private equity firm that has purchased any music-related companies. They have destroyed them, absolutely destroyed them. And I don't blame Marshall. I don't blame them at all. You know, every business goes into business to make money. And if they can do that by doing this, then so be it. So be it. Go live your life. Go enjoy yourself. Go into retirement, whatever it takes. Enjoy yourself because nothing lasts forever. And that's a fact, Jack. The new generation's not so much about amps. I mean, yeah, there are going to be people watching right now. There's going to be your diehard purist, of which I would much rather play a real tube amp over any kind of modeler. That said, I use modeling here in my studio all the time. I've got a Kemper right over there, and then I've also got a Tone X pedal here. I enjoy playing through those. And for recording, I can get some great results. But when I'm sitting down playing, I want to plug into an amp. I want to feel that air move. So I'm kind of the middle of the road. Used to be a diehard purist who wouldn't even consider any of this modeler stuff. But as it continued to get better and better and better, I realized from a practical standpoint, it just makes a lot more sense. You know, I don't understand how a kid today can afford $4,500 for an amp. You know, by the time you spend $3,500 for a head, another $1,000 for a cabinet, you know, or whether you buy all in one, you're anywhere from $3,000 to $4,500 for a quality tube amp today, for the most part, if you're dealing with a 100-watt amp. Shure just came out with their version of Plexi and a very low wattage amp, but every time I've tried these low wattage amps, they've never lived up to the hype of a full-blown 50-watt or 100-watt tube amp. That's just been my personal take on it. Now, your mileage may vary, and this is not a wrong or a right. You're talking in one guy's opinion here, and this is just my opinion. It's perfectly fine to disagree with me. No problem at all, so feel free to do so. But just realize I'm kind of coming at it from where I think we are today. And since I started this channel, I've made some predictions. I've made a lot of predictions, and almost every one of them have come to fruition. Does that mean I'm smarter than everybody else? No. But when you've been doing this as long as I have, and you've seen these trends and you see the patterns, that the cycles and everything that this industry has gone through, it's not that hard to kind of predict what's going to happen and what's likely to happen. So there's going to be fewer and fewer and fewer people buying tube amps. Now, this is not all about that. That's not the point of this. It's about they're going to ruin that brand. They're going to ruin it. Marshall's already dealt with tremendous competition. You know, tremendous. Friedman has put a magnificent, if that's the word to use, or a significant dent in Marshall sales because, quite frankly, they can do the Marshall vibe and go well beyond that. And so it's kind of hard for Marshall to kind of contend. Ironically, they just came out with a new revision of a JCM 800 and a JCM 900. Well, first of all, if you were a player back in the 80s, okay, going into the 90s, none of us really cared for the JCM 900. I mean, nobody liked it. Nobody. I owned one. I can tell you, it did not have the mojo that the 800 had. Now, the reason they did the 900 is they wanted to be able to add more gain to it. When they did that within their circuitry, it didn't quite get it done, in my opinion, and every other player that I knew back then, too, for the record. You would much rather plug into a JCM 800 and use a Boss OD1 or a Tube Screamer, Some people went as far as the distortion, the Boss distortion. That's when Boss ruled the pedal market. Today, they still make great pedals, but there's a lot more competition today than there was back then. They dominated back then. And so you really wanted to really have that JCM 800 and use that in combination. And then, of course, Mesa came out with the rectifier in the 90s, and that changed everything and really sent us in a completely different direction. This is just another turn of the page and the demise of so many of these great companies and how they're just going to falter, because what this company's going to do, here's my prediction, kids, what this company's going to do is they're going to turn Marshall into a trinket company. I seriously doubt they're going to continue on making tube amplifiers that cost in the thousands and thousands of dollars. I just don't see them doing it. You know, there's still going to be these young kids and they're going to still want to play through tube amps because simply it's not that practical for most of these kids to really go get in-ear monitors and really understand how to do all that and go in to play your local dive club or whatever. So they're still going to need that. They're going to need that for sure. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be the extent of the kind of volume that was when I was a kid, as an example. Every kid I knew, every single one wanted to be in a band. Not everyone could, but everybody wanted to be in a band. And there were bands galore. I mean, like no matter which way you turn, bands everywhere. There are still some young kids out there playing, and I'm encouraged by what I see. TikTok really opens the door for so many of them. And so I think that's encouraging to me. But how many of them are going to be able to afford to spend that kind of money on these expensive tube amps? I don't think many. I honestly don't think many. You know, I got turned on to a band that I want to turn on to you if you're not aware of him, and that's Robert John and the Rack. I found those guys out on TikTok of all places, and I absolutely fell in love with them. They are a rockin', soulful band. To me, it's kind of a blend of Allman Brothers, a little bit of Georgia Satellites, a little tiny itty bitty country, and a lot of soul music, man. And so it is just some moving, rocking, killer music. And I fell in love with that band very, very quickly. And my wife and I are going to see them next Sunday night here in downtown Orlando. So if you're going to that show, look for me. I'll be there with my wife. Don't be afraid to come up and say hello. I'd love to meet you if you happen to be there. So I say all that to say this. I am disappointed that it happened, but I'm not surprised. I think we're going to see more and more of it. People have already begun to lose interest in Mesa Boogie, which is unfortunate. And if you haven't seen, his channel out there on YouTube, you should go watch it. He really tells a lot of stories. Just an interesting look. And I'll put a link down to his channel down below. And that, of course, is the founder of Mesa Boogie. And there's so much misinformation about basically it's a fender on this. I mean, just go watch it and go get the facts instead of regurgitating what everybody tells you, because it's nowhere near as simple as you think it is that some of you love to spout out about, which is completely just nonsense. But you can go to Randall Smith and he'll flat out just tell you. Interesting stuff, very interesting stuff. Go check it out. But if you're a Marshall user, I'm sorry, the value of your amps, who's to say? Are they going to go up or go down? I think they're initially probably going to go down and then over time go up. So if I'm you, I'm not selling them and them end up basically being nothing. And maybe 10 to 15 years from now, that amp will probably grow tremendously in value, because there's always going to be a bunch of rich people out there willing to pay whatever it takes to have whatever they want. And the better the condition, the better it is, okay? That's what I've got to tell you today, and I hope all of you have a great day. Don't forget to leave me some comments down below and tell me what you think.